Hello and welcome to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neal Howard. So glad that you could join us today. Many of us, matter of fact, I would venture to say that all of us suffer from some form of stress, tension, or anxiety on a daily basis. Our guest in studio today is Dr. Johnny Kenley, a certified energy therapist and applied kinesiologist, also an acupuncturist, as well as a physician specializing in physical medicine. He's also the author of the brand new book, Freedom from Anxiety, a revolutionary 10-minute process, returning clarity and ease to your life. And he's here with us today to talk about anxiety and how he has overcome anxiety and how all of us can do the same. How are you doing today, Dr. Kenley?
I'm doing very good. Thank you very much. And it's a mouthful with all the acupuncture and applied kinesiologists.
You've been busy. How can you be involved in so many things and have so many things going on, yet be free of anxiety?
I'm very, very blessed. That is for sure.
I understand that you suffered a traumatic head injury in your life. Could you tell us a little bit about how that injury affected you, how you recovered from that injury, and what you're doing now as a result of surviving that traumatic injury?
Wow. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll give you sort of a brief, non-boring synopsis.
All right. Great.
I hate to bore someone with the path, but I had everything that I ever wanted. Successful 3 different practices. I got run over by a truck while I was cycling. I had traumatic brain injury. I lost my voice for 6 months and was involved in almost 4.5 years of neurocognitive rehab. I lost everything I had. I had no ability to maintain my cool. If someone bumped into me, I would hit them, and therefore I kept myself isolated almost for that length of time. Doing rehabilitation both in clinics around the United States and about 12 hours per day myself.
12 hours a day?
Yeah, every day. 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
My goodness.
Part of that process was speaking into a microphone and reading things. And I have about 700 books in my self-help collection and spiritual books. And I would just keep going over those, repeating those, reading them many times over in that 4.5 years. And during that time, I don't know exactly when it was, I woke up one morning and I realized that in my desire to regain my Mensa mind, my 160 IQ, that wasn't so important. What the most important thing for me to do was serve other people. At that point in time, I just directed all my energies to looking around the world to where I could go, to where I could medically volunteer. I did that from 2006 until 2009, in Africa primarily, but also in China. In 2009, I was invited to teach some psychologists some muscle testing that were energy psychologists, and that's part of what I did in my physical medicine practice, muscle testing. And when I realized that this muscle testing that I was teaching them was part and parcel of my applied kinesiology and emotional aspects of a person's problems and what they were doing with it, something clicked, and I saw a unique way to try to resolve people's emotional issues. And for me, the big issue was that I saw in myself and others was fear. So we are doing one of 2 things. We are either loving or fearing. Now, anxiety or stress or tension or annoyed or angry or perturbed are all other words that we put on it. But basically, we're either fearing or we're loving. So anxiety is a nice word that, we can say to each other, and I'm really feeling anxious, and society accepts it, or relatives accept it. We accept it to ourselves. Or even stress is another word.
Now, we've all heard that love can cause fear, or the fear of love. You say that we're either one or the other. We're either experiencing the emotion of love or the emotion of fear. Can the two be intertwined without anxiety?
No, because just if you think about any activity that you or any listener would have throughout their day, they're either moving in one direction. So you can just think of it as a line. You're either moving towards loving or you're moving towards fearing. And again, it might be just that you're annoyed. Well, if you're annoyed, that's not towards loving. If you're feeling peaceful and relaxed, that's more towards loving. So I don't mean the two extremes. You're either in dire fear for your death, or you have this agape love towards every person and animal on the planet. But you're moving in one of those two directions. And the reason I use the word anxiety in the work that I do, in the RAIN process or the book that I've written, is because anxiety is a socially accepted word, and it's one that we use ourselves.
Does your new book, Freedom from Anxiety, talk about, obviously we all experience anxiety, but who among us would you say experiences the highest level of anxiety based on, I guess, occupation, social status, region of the country or the world? Are there different levels based on the lifestyle that you lead, or could you be attacked by anxiety no matter what situation that you find yourself in?
I think you've almost answered yourself with your astuteness there in the last thing you said. We can go online and you can look at the most anxious jobs, and you can see that it's okay, it's policemen in this study and it's teachers in another study. And certainly at this time of the year, I've just written an article about how students have anxiety and how they can resolve it instantly. But the thing of it is that we bring anxiety, it's there, to whatever we do. So you may have a person that's dismantling a bomb that you and I may think, well, that person has to be pretty anxious. And he can be as relaxed as you could possibly imagine, have no anxiety in him whatsoever. And yet the 20-year-old mother with 3 children and no husband, she may be experiencing anxiety like you or I can't even imagine. So it's not, I'm trying to look for the right word here. It's not exactly healthy for us to say that this is automatically anxious or that is. So it affects every living person because we're all conditioned to it from the time that we're born.
What about balance? It's often said that everything has to have a balance. How can we find ourselves in a position of always loving with no anxiety and yet be balanced? Is there no yin yang in this anxiety game? Or?
Well, that's pretty good. There is yin, there is yang. So you certainly have you could certainly have yang, which is fire, which is loving, passion, and you have yin, which is cold, which is death and fear. But in yang there's yin, and in yin there's yang. So there's aspects in each. If we want to speak with traditional Chinese medicine, but the balance occurs in that we're not on the extremes. Most of us aren't on the extremes at one end of imminent fear of our death, and at this complete oneness with God, loving bliss for every human being on this planet. We sort of range in between every second of every day. So there's the balance. We're moving back and forth, and hopefully we're stabilized more towards a loving direction.
Now, as we wrap up, I'd like to talk about your book, Freedom from Anxiety, a revolutionary 10-minute process, returning clarity and ease to your life. Now, in this book, you outline your 7-step process that, well, basically anyone can use to rid themselves of anxiety. You say you've helped more than 3,000 patients in several countries around the world. Could you explain this 7-step process to us briefly?
Okay. So the 7-step process, it takes you step by step by step. Very simplified things that you need to do. You're not about thinking, you're actually physically doing something. So you're working with your meridians of your body, you're working with your chakras, or you're working with a mirror, and you go through these steps. I teach these steps to children in a reform school in Kenya, in Nairobi, as young as 10 years old, boys and girls. They learn this in 10 minutes, and they have the ability to resolve their anxiousness about being alone, about being 800 miles from their home, being in a jail. And I teach this with elderly people as well. So there's nobody that cannot learn this process, and I designed it, I refined it, so that it is very simple, very easy to understand, and when whoever does it, whoever completes this process, they know right at the very end, when they're finished, is that anxiety there or is it not? And it's gone. It just works, and they know it. They don't think it, they don't hope it, they don't wish it. they know right then and there that it's gone.
So there's no gray area. You either know that it's gone or you know that it's not.
Correct.
And where can we get a copy of your book and more information about you?
So my book is available on Amazon.com, and it's available in print, and it's available in Kindle edition as well.
Mm-hmm.
And also on my website, anxietysolutions.now, gives quite a bit of background about anxiety and about the RAIN process. It also gives information about coaching that I do one-on-one or in group, and the work that I do with government organizations or businesses, seminars and workshops, and talks a little bit about the book as well.
Great, great. You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neal Howard. It's been a pleasure speaking in studio today with Dr. Johnny Kenley, certified energy therapist, an applied kinesiologist, acupuncturist, and physician. We've been here talking about anxiety, ways that we can alleviate our anxiety, and we've also been talking about Dr. Kenley's brand new book, Freedom from Anxiety, a revolutionary 10-minute process, returning clarity and ease to your life. It's been great talking with you today, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Neal.
Thank you. Transcripts and audio of this program are available at healthprofessionalradio.com.au and also at hpr.fm, and you can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.